Christmas night, sighting near Silverton, December 25th, 2020. Late on Christmas night, a group of travelers were driving home along Highway 6 near Slocan Lake in British Columbia. Snow covered the ground, and the surrounding wilderness was dark and quiet. As the vehicle passed a clearing along the roadside, someone in the car suddenly shouted, "Look, is that a bear?" At first, the dark figure standing in the clearing seemed large enough to be one. But the passenger in the front seat immediately noticed something strange. The figure wasn't moving like a bear, it was standing upright. Witnesses described seeing a massive dark shape, broad-shouldered and tall, standing on two legs like a man. For a moment it remained perfectly still. Then the creature bent forward and dropped down onto four limbs before moving toward the woods. The vehicle continued past the clearing, leaving the witnesses stunned. In the mountains of the Kootenays, bears are normally in hibernation by late December. Curiosity soon brought the group back to the location later that night. 4 of them returned with flashlights and cameras. In the fresh snow, they discovered something unusual. Large tracks crossing the clearing. The impressions appeared long and spaced far apart, suggesting a very large stride. They photographed and filmed the tracks. But while they were documenting the prints, something else caught their attention. The forest around them was silent, and several members of the group began to feel as if they were being watched from the darkness of the trees. Chapter 2. The Highway. 37 Crossing. August 29th, 2019. A husband and wife were traveling through the remote wilderness of northwest British Columbia in their motorhome. They were driving south along Highway 37 near the Nass River Bridge. It was a clear morning around 10 a.m. Dense forest stretched for miles on both sides of the road. Without warning, something emerged from the trees ahead of them. A large figure stepped calmly onto the highway. The couple had a clear view from their elevated seats in the motorhome. The creature walked across both lanes of the road about 50 yards ahead. It never ran. It never looked toward the vehicle. Witnesses estimated the height at well over 7 feet. Its body appeared covered in dark brown hair from head to foot. The arms were long and swung naturally as it walked. In only a few seconds, the figure crossed the pavement and disappeared into the forest on the opposite side. There was nowhere safe to pull over. Logging trucks were traveling the road at high speed. The couple continued driving, both stunned by what they had just witnessed. Later that night, the witness reported he could barely sleep. The image of the towering figure crossing the highway replayed again and again in his mind. Chapter 3. The 1934 Sasquatch Expedition. In the spring of 1934, reports from British Columbia began appearing in newspapers across North America. Stories told of a mysterious creature seen wandering the mountains near Harrison Lake. The creature was described as large, hairy, and shaped like a man. Local residents had spoken of such sightings for years. Indigenous traditions in the region had long described similar beings inhabiting remote forests and mountain valleys. The reports attracted the attention of 2 students from the University of California. According to newspaper articles at the time, the students began organizing an expedition to travel into the mountains of British Columbia. Their goal was simple: find the creature, or at least gather proof that it existed. Armed with cameras and supplies, they planned to search remote valleys and forest slopes where sightings had been reported. Though many doubted they would succeed, the expedition sparked new interest in the legend of the Sasquatch. And it would not be the last time explorers entered the wilderness hoping to find answers. Chapter 4. the strange forest nest. In October of 2005, a group of experienced hikers exploring rugged terrain on Vancouver Island made a disturbing discovery deep in the forest. Hidden among old-growth trees was a massive structure unlike anything they had seen before. The formation stretched between 15 and 20 feet long. It was made from broken saplings, cedar branches, moss, dirt, and shredded wood. At the center was a deep pit in the ground. Large trees had been dragged and placed across the opening. Nearby, dozens of smaller trees had been snapped or pushed over at heights around 6 feet above the ground. Everything seemed arranged around the central pit. While examining the structure, one hiker noticed something strange. Near the base of a fallen log was a dark hole. Inside the darkness, 2 reflective eyes blinked. Moments later, the forest erupted with sound. Loud crashing impacts echoed through the trees. It sounded like massive objects striking the trunks of nearby trees. Then came 3 powerful thumps from beneath the ground itself. The hikers quickly left the area. Chapter 5. The Cheakamus Canyon Encounter, February 13th, 2005. A family was hiking along a remote service road in the Cheakamus Canyon area north of Squamish. The group included 2 adults, their 11-year-old son, and their dog. The forest around them was dense with fir and cedar trees. Not far along the trail, they heard a deep sound coming from the brush. It was somewhere between a grunt and a growl. Moments later, the father saw something moving in the trees roughly 80 yards ahead. A dark figure, running on 2 legs. Almost immediately, a strong odor filled the air. The smell was overpowering. Their dog ran ahead into the bushes, but suddenly yelped and rushed back onto the road. The hikers stopped moving. The forest had become completely silent. After encountering the smell again, further up the trail, the family decided not to continue. They turned around and returned to their vehicle. Chapter 6. Strange Sounds at Summer Camp. In the summer of 1973, a group of children arrived at a camp in Langley, British Columbia. At the time, the area was mostly farmland, surrounded by thick forest. One of the first activities was an overnight hike in nearby parkland. During the hike, a man on horseback showed the group something unusual. A deep pit in the ground, surrounded by small trees driven into the soil. According to the man, the pit had once been used to capture a Sasquatch many years earlier. The story was strange enough, but the events that followed were even stranger. Later that week, a counselor reportedly fled the property after claiming to have been chased near the back of the campgrounds. The following morning, a nearby sheep farmer reported 2 animals missing. Blood and wool were discovered on a section of barbed wire fence along the property. Soon afterward, campers heard a roar echoing through the forest. The sound was louder than anything they had ever heard before. Camp officials later blamed the disturbance on a bear. But the camp closed soon after. Chapter 7. The River Creature. In the winter of 1977, 2 boys were playing near a frozen river in the West Kootenay region of British Columbia. They were throwing rocks onto the ice, trying to break through the frozen surface. As they approached the riverbank, they noticed something crouched near the water. At first, they thought it was a man, but the figure was covered in dark hair. The creature was squatting beside the water, splashing or washing its hands. The boys called out to it several times. The figure did not respond. After a moment, it slowly stood up. The witnesses estimated the height between 6 and 7 feet tall. Terrified, the boys ran toward the shoreline. When they looked back, the creature was still standing near the water, watching them. Ending. Across the mountains and forests of British Columbia, stories like these continue to surface. Motorists see towering figures cross lonely highways. Hikers discover strange structures deep in the woods. Others stay with witnesses for the rest of their lives. Whether legend, misidentified wildlife, or something still hidden in the wilderness, the mystery of Sasquatch remains unsolved, and somewhere in the vast forests of the Pacific Northwest, something may still be watching from the trees.
Welcome to Curious Conundrums, where the wild secrets deepen with every tale. Today we explore 11 Bigfoot encounters inspired by UFO Newsclipping service, spanning the U.S. from the 1840s to 2023. These gripping first-hand accounts will captivate you, so dim the lights, secure the doors. Story 1. The Saint. Helen's Two-Toed Tracks. From UFO Newsclipping service, St. Helens, 1978. It was a crisp Saturday afternoon in early 1978 when my brother-in-law Russell Harvey and I, Bill Nagel from Route 13 in Olympia, were elk hunting near the 1,100-foot line by the Toutle River, close to Mount St. Helens. The air was sharp with the scent of pine and fresh snow as we trekked along a cat trail. Around 1 p.m., we spotted something odd. Tracks in the snow unlike anything we'd seen. They were barefoot, with 2 toes, about 12 inches long and 7 inches wide, with a stride of 6 feet. I'd always laughed off Sasquatch tales from this area, but these made me pause. We followed them briefly, marveling at the size and oddity. The prints didn't match a bear or human. 4-legged animals don't leave such a pattern. I'd heard stories of Bigfoot sightings near St. Helens, but this convinced me something was out there. My initial skepticism faded as we turned back, the weight of the unknown settling in. Years later, I still wonder what left those tracks in the snow. If you hike those trails, keep an eye on the ground. Something strange walks there. Story 2. The South Weber Shadow. From Deseret News, South Weber, 1978. It was a quiet week in early 1978 when I, Pauline Markham, a high school student, living at 1789 East 76th South in South Weber, Davis County, Utah, glanced out my kitchen window around 4 p.m. on a Sunday. I was getting a drink, alone at home, when I saw it, a tall figure moving along the ridge behind my house, about half a mile away. At first I thought I was imagining things, but it stayed there, dark brown or black, maybe 8 to 10 feet tall, walking with a long, human-like stride. Fear and curiosity gripped me, but I was late for church and didn't investigate, especially not with a snowmobile needed to reach the hill. The next night, my cousin Ron J. Smith, an aircraft inspector from 174 East South Weber Drive, about 2 miles away, stepped out to feed his horse around 150 feet from his pasture. In the moonlight, he saw a similar figure, 7 to 8 feet tall with long arms, move quickly into a clump of trees. Then came 4 loud, inhuman screams like a cougar's cry, but deeper, followed by 3 more from inside his house. His horse seemed unbothered, and the next day, only 3 indistinct 18-inch prints remained in the snow 8 to 9 feet apart. Neither of us claimed it was Bigfoot, but the experience lingers. If you live near South Weber, watch the ridges at dusk. Story 3. The Hairy Yowie of Tamworth, from UFO Newsclipping Service, Tamworth, 1844. In the fall of 1844, I, a shepherd traveling from Tamworth to Quirindi in New South Wales, Australia, made camp on a high creek bank. The moon rose, casting light 200 yards around as I smoked my pipe by the fire, my dog beside me. Around an hour later, a curious noise drifted up the creek. I peered into the night and saw him, a figure like a man but larger, gorilla-like, dark-colored, roaring as it moved toward Top Bingara. The sound faded as it disappeared. The next morning, I reached Bell's Mountain by 9 a.m. and told Mr. Bridger about the encounter over breakfast. He mentioned others had seen this hairy yowie in the Gwadir Mountains and near Mount Lindsay, often eluding pursuit by night. I marveled at how it could hide in caves by day. The dense, waterless forest from Tamworth to Corubula offered plenty of cover. Some call it myth, but the sightings persist in my memory. If you travel those old trails, listen for the roar. It's no ghost. Story 4. The Loyalhanna Creek Beast from Pittsburgh Press, Westmoreland County, 1988. It was a chilly night on May 17, 1988, when I, Sam Sherry, a 67-year-old disabled World War II veteran from Wilpin, 5 miles north of Ligonier, Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, went fishing along Loyalhanna Creek. I'd roamed these woods for 50 years, but that night changed everything. Around midnight, I spotted a large, human-like figure, 6.5 feet tall, 700 pounds, with arms nearly to its ankles, standing 20 feet away. Its skin looked like rawhide, toothless, and it breathed heavily, scratching its abdomen. As I turned to my car, it placed one arm on my shoulder, the other on my back, but I managed to drive off. I later ordered a 5,000-pound steel cable from Abilene, Texas, planning to trap it after hunting season with bait in a loop. The area, part of Chestnut Ridge known for UFO and Bigfoot sightings, felt alive with mystery. I aimed to display it for sale, but until then, the woods hold its secret. If you fish there, beware the shadows. Story 5. The Brown County Skylights from Journal Courier, Brown County, 1989. It was a Tuesday night, February 2, 1989, when I, Robert Zimmerman, a hog farmer near Versailles, in Brown County, Illinois, drove with my wife toward Met Sterling on 107. Around 6:40 p.m., we saw 7 or 8 blinking yellow lights circling the sky about 2 or 3 miles from the new prison. Thinking they were prison lights, we watched for 6 or 7 minutes until they vanished. I stopped the car, fearing a collision, as they seemed just 0.2 of a mile away, 40 feet above the water tower. I'd never seen anything like it and couldn't explain it. The Brown County Sheriff's Department received similar reports, but Quincy and Springfield airports noted no unusual activity. UFO researchers noted a surge in sightings since 1987, with 44% of 1988 cases unsolved. That night left me rattled. If you drive those roads, watch the sky. It might not be stars. Story 6. The Kansas Turnpike Sasquatch from Capital Journal, Leavenworth County, 1978. It was early Thursday morning, September 30th, 1978, around 2:30 a.m., when I, a motorist driving the Kansas Turnpike 8 miles west of Kansas City, Kansas, spotted a large, dark figure step into my headlights' glare. The creature, auburn-haired and 8 to 10 feet tall, stood erect, its eyes glowing like a cat's as I braked 30 yards away. It moved off the road and vanished into the shadows. I knew it wasn't a man, bear, or gorilla. I reported it, but Leavenworth County authorities dismissed it, though Douglas County confirmed the teletype. Erwin Alpert of the Sasquatch Research Group took it seriously, planning to investigate, citing similar sightings near Linwood and Bonner Springs. He warned against armed hunters trampling evidence. The Sasquatch left me questioning. If you drive that stretch, watch the roadside. Something might step out. Story 7. The Lawrence Field Phantom from Capital Journal, Douglas County, 1978. It was a Sunday morning in early 1978 when I, one of 2 hunters walking a field 2.5 miles northwest of Lawrence, Douglas County, Kansas, saw a black, furry creature about 300 yards away. Standing 8 feet tall on its hind legs, it moved with purpose. We reported it to the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Kansas Highway Patrol, and Fish and Game Commission, but a search by 5 officers found no sign of it or its footprints. The sighting puzzled us, and though law enforcement laughed it off, the memory stuck. Later, Erwin Alpert of the Sasquatch Research Group cautioned against amateurs disrupting potential evidence. That field felt alive with mystery. If you hunt there, keep your eyes peeled. Story 8. The South Lake Tahoe Tracks from Personal Account, South Lake Tahoe, 2023. It was a recent afternoon in 2023 around 5 p.m. when my husband and I took our usual walk on a county trail near South Lake Tahoe, California after a fresh rain. The ashy, sandy soil was smooth, but by a creek with tree cover and old logs, we froze. Multiple tracks, not bear or human, sprawled across the path. Some were large, others smaller, resembling Bigfoot prints. We took photos and circled them as my husband searched off trail. Then, a strange whoop and a single wood knock broke the silence. The woods grew eerily quiet in the deepening shade. I later read a YouTuber's comment about Bigfoots moving closer to towns due to construction and fires, a trend fitting northeastern California's recent blazes. I hope they reached the Sierras safely, but those tracks were a rare, unsettling sight. If you walk those trails, listen for the whoop. Story 9. The Missouri Riverbank Roamer, inspired by a new twist, Boone County, 1975. It was a humid July evening in 1975 when I, a 29-year-old fisherman from Columbia, Boone County, Missouri, cast my line along the Missouri River's bank, the air thick with the scent of mud and wildflowers. The sun dipped low, painting the water gold, and I settled into the quiet until a low, rumbling growl broke the peace. I turned, flashlight in hand, and saw it. A towering figure, 9 feet tall, covered in dark, matted fur, standing 50 yards upstream. Its eyes caught the beam, glinting yellow, and a musky stench, like wet fur and decay, wafted over. Heart pounding, I froze as it moved closer, its heavy footsteps crunching the gravel. Then it stopped, tilted its head, and let out a deep roar that echoed off the water. I dropped my rod and ran to my truck, glancing back to see it vanish into the trees. The next morning, I found 17-inch footprints with splayed toes along the bank, too large for any known animal. Local tales later spoke of similar sightings near the river. If you fish those waters, listen for the growl. It's not just the current moving. Story 10. The Arizona Canyon Caller, inspired by a new twist, Coconino County, 1981. It was a crisp September night in 1981 when I, a 33-year-old hiker from Flagstaff, Coconino County, Arizona, camped in a narrow canyon off the Mogollon Rim, the stars bright above the red rock walls. The silence was profound, until a series of sharp whooping calls pierced the air around midnight. I grabbed my binoculars, scanning the cliffs, and spotted a figure, 8 feet tall, with reddish-brown fur, perched on a ledge 100 yards away. Its eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight, and a rancid odor like spoiled meat drifted down. The calls continued, rhythmic and haunting, as it descended the rock face with surprising agility. I packed my gear, heart racing, and hiked out as the whoops followed, fading into the distance. Dawn revealed 16-inch tracks with dermal ridges in the canyon floor, leading to a cave. Later, I heard of Bigfoot sightings in these canyons, linked to strange vocalizations. If you hike the rim, beware the calls. They signal more than echoes. Story 11. The Wisconsin Pine Hollow Haunter, inspired by a new twist, Vilas County, 1986. It was a snowy December night in 1986 when I, a 31-year-old snowmobiler from Eagle River, Vilas County, Wisconsin, rode into Pine Hollow, the forest dense with snow-laden pines. The cold bit my face as I stopped to rest, the engine's hum fading, when a low, guttural snarl rose from the trees. I turned my headlamp, catching a glimpse of a 10-foot figure, white fur blending with the snow, standing 30 yards away. Its breath fogged, and a pungent smell like frozen carrion hit me. It lumbered closer, its massive frame swaying, then stopped, emitting a series of short barking roars. I revved the snowmobile and sped off, glancing back as it melted into the white. The next day, I found 19-inch tracks with a 7-foot stride circling my rest spot. Local lore later mentioned Bigfoot in these northern woods, especially in winter. If you ride those trails, watch the snow. It hides a stalker. From snowy tracks to canyon calls, these Bigfoot tales reveal the wild's hidden depths. If they gripped you, like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more. Hit the bell. Stay cautious in nature.